It's a lonely journey. Just being in politics is a lonely journey.
You've been told a lot of lies about Regina Hill. During a time where we should be protecting black women, a lot of black people have done just the opposite. Apparently, a lot of people were waiting on her to fall at a time where she needs our help the most. She's fallen victim to a selective prosecution, all because of a lying FDLE special agent who turned a blind eye when a white woman was alleged to have done the same thing.
If whatever you guys are doing is fishy or not up to par, you guys should leave as well.
Let's discuss. Quick note, when you download Gepeca and you click on the augmented reality tab and you can find any one of my drawings on the internet and you scan it with your phone, an augmented reality art experience from that drawing that you scanned will come to life in your living room and you can explore the art and listen to the story that inspired it. Download Gepeca on the App Store or Google Play today. So before we get into the lies that were told about Regina Hill, and before we get into how this prosecution was selective, meaning she was targeted specifically for being a black woman, let's review some of the most obvious evidence of her innocence. During the hearing for an injunction, Judge Heather Higbee suppressed and deprived the public of being made aware of a television show called Dirty Rotten Cleaners. Had Judge Higbee allowed this video to be shown to the public, everyone would have already known Regina Hill had not committed any crimes. I found the episode. Take a look at the conditions that the alleged victim, Miss Annie Mae Curtis, was living in before Regina Hill came to the rescue and improved her quality of life and, quite frankly, saved her life.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Miss Regina. It's Missy from American Family.
Oh, my goodness. How you doing? Thank you so very much for your assistance.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure. We'll be there in probably about 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll be waiting on you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. The city commissioner of Orlando called me last week on behalf of a 94-year-old woman. It's now a gross field situation with significant biohazard dangers.
Is it gonna be bad?
There's a lot of doo-doo. You got some cat doo-doo in there, but you'll be all right.
How you doing?
Oh my goodness, it was good. I know, put that down. You need to wait for the muscles to get here.
There you go, you can have that. I am the city commissioner here in Orlando. My main focus is making sure that the constituent here in this home has quality of life, public health, and public safety.
So, as you can see, Commissioner Hill became aware of an elderly person living in deplorable conditions. She literally had to employ the assistance of a team called BioClean. And as you're about to see, the home was infested with maggots, feces, urine, mold. The only source of food was spoiled milk, and a bunch of cats had turned the home into an oversized litter box.
I'm smelling poop straight out. Oh, yeah.
It's saturated with cat urine.
Is putrid. I do not know what it is.
Yep. Now, is that pee?
No.
Because this very much looks like pee.
That is not
Oh,
pee.
no.
That's
It's milk. False alarm.
Milk that looks spoiled and
Those are pungent. Yeah. Maggots. Those are maggots. That's crazy.
I can't. American family. No matter what ethnicity we are, we're family.
Thank you.
All right, with that being said, family, you got your money, let's get to work.
That's the footage Heather Higbee did not want you to see. Now, pay attention to how Judge Higbee made sure that the public didn't see that video, and pay very close attention to Agent Brenton's reaction to the fact that Regina Hill's lawyers had found the video.
TV show had come out and cleaned up the house, and the only other thing I know is The woman who owned the company recently reached out to me. That's all I know.
Did you, when you say clean up the house, did you see that they had to take out the concrete in the property?
I watched it. I didn't study it. I don't know the work they did.
Your Honor, I do have the video.
Why don't you and counsel approach just to whether that?
But let's get into the lies. It was falsely alleged by Stephen Brenton that Regina Hill was exploiting Annie Mae Curtis so that she and her son could live in Miss Curtis's properties. This lie was also repeated by the media.
Declining M granted Hill power of attorney in 2021, which Hill used to give herself and her son places to live and access to more than $100,000.
But let's listen to what Agent Brenton testified to during the hearing for the injunction.
You put in your affidavit that it was believed that Omari and his girlfriend were living in properties owned by Miss Curtis?
I'd have to review that document. I don't remember ever saying that.
It's on your affidavit?
Could you show me the affidavit, please?
Your Honor, I'm approaching it with a copy of the affidavit, which was attached to the petition. And
You're welcome to approach.
thank you, Your Honor.
There was a point in time where information through neighbors who were telling me things that they had believed that Omari Nemard and his girlfriend had moved into Miss Curtis's home on Mahalia. I didn't know that for sure, and I don't believe that that was ever substantiated as being true.
Okay.
Now, that's a long-winded way of saying I lied just to make my affidavit look good. He told a lot more lies we're going to get to, but this particular lie kind of upset me because I know Omari. I know Omari and I know Gucci. Gucci, that's my dog. I've known them for a little over 20 years. And right now, Omari's a family man. Omari is also a newlywed. And by trade, Omari's a damn truck driver, meaning he's never really in the state of Florida at all. And the reason this particular lie bothered me so much is because Omari may have visited his mother as she was caring for Miss Curtis maybe once or twice. And in the eyes of FDLE, a black man visiting his mother is now a crime. Now, let's get to what is perhaps the most troubling lie told by Special Agent Brenton.
Indicated in your affidavit that Miss Curtis was called, or DCF was called to Miss Curtis' home. Is that right?
Repeat the question again.
You indicated in your affidavit that DCF had come to Miss Curtis' home.
I called DCF to Miss Curtis's home.
And what day did you do that? Do you remember?
The date of the first interview with Miss Curtis, which I think was March 15th of 2023.
And March 15th of 2023, they came to the home, correct?
They did.
They did their investigation.
They did.
And the investigation was closed as unfounded.
That investigation was closed as unfounded and reopened.
It was reopened when?
It's ongoing as we speak.
Okay, but as of March 15th, 2023, it was closed.
No. As of May 2023, it was closed.
Okay, that's right. So as of May of 2023, when it was closed, why didn't you put in your affidavit that the investigation was closed in May of 2023?
It's, DCF's investigation really wasn't relevant to my investigation, and also when I spoke to the investigator from DCF, I explained to them why I called them back out, that Ms. Hill was exploiting Ms. Curtis, and they did document that in their report. They asked me if I would give them evidence of said exploitation. I offered it to them, and they never took me up on it.
But in your affidavit that you submitted to the court with this petition, you said that there were 2 DCF investigations, and neither of them resulted in any findings of exploitation. But you didn't put that in your petition. You just put in the petition that there were 2 investigations.
I don't understand the question.
Did you forget that they...
Well, that's relevant. answer if you're able.
Did you forget that those investigations were in fact closed?
So this special agent tried to embellish his affidavit by saying DCF came out twice and did an investigation. But he didn't put in the affidavit that he was the one who called DCF, and both times they told him, dude, you're full of it. Then he committed perjury on the stand by saying that the DCF investigation was ongoing. That's a lie, because right after that, he said it was closed as of May of 2023. If DCF told him 2 times that there was no evidence of exploitation, you have to question his motives for having Regina Hill arrested. They even asked him for evidence, and that's what I'm struggling to understand. If they ask you to produce evidence of the said exploitation and you say you offered it to them and they never took you up on it, I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean, because law enforcement, they have channels to where they provide the evidence. There's no such thing as offering and you accept it or you don't. No, you give it to them. And as much as he's been lying, I interpret him saying they never took me up on it as they reviewed my evidence, and for the 3rd time, they told me I was full of it. Now, what you're about to see next should have landed him in jail. He entered Miss Curtis's house without a warrant and disconnected all of the cameras so that there wouldn't be any evidence that he was there tampering with a witness.
And did you come into Miss Curtis's home and turn the cameras off in her home? Excuse me, let me strike that. Were you aware that Miss Curtis had cameras in her home?
I am.
And is there a reason you went into the home and disconnected the cameras?
I was asked to do that by the new power of attorney, Ms. Alexander.
And what was the basis of turning off the cameras?
Because Ms. Hill was maintaining surveillance of Ms. Curtis in her home, and the new power of attorney did not want that to continue.
But did you speak with Ms. Curtis about turning the cameras off?
Yes, I did, actually.
Okay. And Ms. Curtis?
She doesn't even know what the cameras are.
I was going to ask you a question.
He tampered with 2 witnesses. He tampered with evidence, and then there was testimony that he went to Tampa and he coerced the new power of attorney, Miss Alexander, into becoming the power of attorney just so that he could pursue this investigation into Regina Hill. It was even suggested that he picked the attorneys.
Investigation.
But she's not related to Miss Curtis.
No.
She, to your knowledge, she hadn't seen Miss Curtis since 2021, correct?
To my knowledge.
So you felt compelled to keep her in the loop as to what was happening with Miss Curtis?
Absolutely.
Even though Miss Curtis at the time had a power of attorney, and, right? Even though she had a power of attorney at that time, you still wanted to keep Miss Alexander in the loop, right?
100%.
And you understood that at that time, Miss Curtis actually had an attorney draft her initial power of attorney, correct?
I became aware of that after Mr. Lindsay gave it to me, so I wouldn't say I knew that in February, but it could have been April of 2023, maybe.
Okay.
I never became aware of the actual durable power of attorney that was done by Anderson and Associates until it was presented to me by Mr. Lindsay.
Are you kidding me? First, DCF has to tell this man 3 times, your allegations are unfounded. They have no foundation. They're lies. The folks at A&E send him the episode of Dirty Rotten Cleaners and tell him, no, she didn't spend any of that money on herself. She was renovating Miss Curtis's home. And then a completely different attorney has to tell him, hey, I'm the one who drafted the original power of attorney. It's authentic and Miss Curtis did sign it. And this man still went forward with these bogus allegations. This is criminal. Steve Brenton should be behind bars. And hats off to Nicole Benjamin. This was impressive. She did her investigations. She asked all of the right questions. But unfortunately, Heather Higbee's a corrupt judge, and Regina Hill didn't get a fair hearing. Check this out.
Ms. Hill lacked capacity. Do you remember reading that in the...
Objection, Your Honor. That's misleading. Effective explaining.
It's hearsay.
Well, that's started.
Well,
This is one of the gravest miscarriages of justice you'll ever see. Nicole Benjamin asked Special Agent Brenton about Miss Curtis's mental capacity to sign the documents he wanted her to sign. Opposing counsel says, "Objection, that's misleading. If I can explain." Those were his exact words. So as opposing counsel is getting ready to elaborate on his objection as to why the question was misleading, Judge Higbee interjects and says it's hearsay. That is one of the biggest problems you will ever see in a courtroom, where a judge interjects and makes her own objection for the sake of one party. He didn't raise a hearsay objection. He made an objection based on how he believed the evidence should be characterized. He's allowed to do that. But what the judge is not allowed to do is take a position in the fight. Judges are supposed to be referees. His strategy had nothing to do with hearsay. And even he was shocked that the judge did it, because when she said it's hearsay, he said, well, that's a start. And then he sits down because he saw that the judge did his job for him. In doing so, Judge Higbee vacated her capacity as a judge and assumed the capacity of counsel. That exposes her to liability. But you would be astonished at how many judges don't know the law. And while she decided to make a hearsay objection on behalf of an attorney who didn't even raise that for himself, look at what she did when Regina Hill's counsel really raised a hearsay objection.
That would be hearsay.
She opened the door.
Okay. But he's saying, acceptable.
It's discrimination, and it's a violation of Regina Hill's guarantee to equal protection under the law. Now, what about the selective prosecution? The difference between him chasing a flimsy nothing burger against Regina Hill, but declining to go after a local attorney by the name of Julie Frey. Ironically, around the same time he started investigating Regina Hill, Mr. Brenton was standing in the evidence building at the FDLE headquarters in Orlando when he was handed evidence that Julie Frey had not only financially exploited an elderly person who was terminally ill with pancreatic cancer, she had committed bank fraud to embezzle millions of dollars. And she brought her sister along to help out with the scheme. Steve Brenton also received evidence that Frey had multiple victims. While standing in the evidence room, he spent 20 minutes reviewing all of the evidence. That evidence was provided to him in coordination with the Public Corruption Unit in Tallahassee. After reviewing all of the evidence, he refused to accept it, called Tallahassee, and complained that they hadn't prepared him for the evidence that he was looking at. Keep in mind, in a federal lawsuit here in Orlando, Frey already confessed to using the finances of an elderly citizen for the purposes of her own credit, her taxes, her home, and debit card expenditures. Everything that Steve Brenton wishes was in the Regina Hill case is actually in a Julie Frey case, but he declined to investigate Frey because Frey was not a black woman. And it's such a coincidence that the same people who want Regina Hill to spend the rest of her life in prison for being kind and having a heart are the same people who declined to investigate Julie Frey, because guess who is responsible for prosecuting this case in court? Prosecutor Richard Walsh, a prosecutor known for going after black people in politics and declining to prosecute police officers who shoot black men. And a prosecutor who has just been sued in federal court because he used his position as a prosecutor to protect Julie Frey from the same allegations he'll be prosecuting against Regina Hill. It's a messed up system. You don't really have a fair chance if you're black. It's crazy that in these times we're still saying that, and you've just seen it for yourself. I don't think I have to convince you that Steve Brenton is a crooked cop. You can see it for yourself. You be the judge of that. It was just alarming to me that all of that was allowed to fly. And guess what? Since it was allowed to fly, Miss Curtis's life is on the line. That hearing is a pretty lengthy hearing, but if you watch the entire thing, there was testimony that Regina Hill was working toward long-term care for Miss Curtis.
And to your knowledge, is Miss Curtis going to be residing in that property with Miss Hill? Did you learn that? Did you learn that information at all? What the circumstances were about who was going to be living in that property?
I believe it was Mr. Lindsay might have said it, that the reason that Ms. Hill bought that house was for long term for the two of them to live together.
And then there's been so much slander of her name, you know, and I've been keeping an eye on this whole conversation throughout social media, particularly on Twitter, but there's been a lot of talk about a facelift. That was fake news too. But you only come to these conclusions when you put a cop under oath. Apparently, what people are confusing as a facelift was a $2,000 expenditure at a lounge. And there was even testimony that Regina Hill took Miss Curtis with her. They went to Vita Lounge. And I'm shocked that the news was reporting this whole facelift nonsense. Because if the news has access to the same information we have access to, there's no way a responsible outlet would have even reported that. If you have it in your mind that somehow folks can go to Vita Lounge and get a facelift, put your phone down for a day or two and get back in touch with reality. And if you're of the belief that you can get a facelift for $2,000, put your phone down just for a second. Put your phone down for a day or two. None of that is true. But unfortunately, when you're a black person, particularly a black woman, you can lose in the court of public opinion just off of allegations alone. And as you saw, none of it's true. And what's worse, it's only because she's black. We have to protect black women. You might say, Mo, I'm not an attorney, I'm not in law enforcement. I want to protect black women. What can I do? Protect black women with your vote. If you don't do anything else, protect them with your vote. And it's critical because this whole thing boils down to the election of Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSanctimonious with his high heels and his bobblehead bullshit, you know. No, he looks like a bobblehead doll.
As the chief executive of the state of Florida, law enforcement is a reflection of the guy at the top. We know this man's a racist. This man said that slavery was as good as having a college degree. It was beneficial to black people, right? Is it any surprise that you have FDLE agents then targeting black women based on lies? No, it's not. Your vote is the most precious thing you have. And that's the best way to protect black women, because they're being targeted. And as soon as this thing became buzzworthy, you know, DeSanctimonious, he's never gonna miss an opportunity to show off them damn space age high heels he be wearing to get some attention. This man will do anything to try and make people like him. If he sees something happening at the border in Texas, he got to send planes out there. He sees something happening in New York City, he's got to make a law about what's happening in New York. He sees something happening in Israel, we're going to Israel too. He's an attention seeker. And as soon as this became a thing, he showed up to Orlando. He's not welcome here, but he showed up anyway. And just to prove it, when I heard that he was coming down here to do his little press conference, I went down there because I wanted to see Ashley Moody in person. I went down there to see this press conference. And, you know, I was just curious because I'm like, well, they said, and I didn't see her. Ashley Moody, apparently either she didn't come or she stayed in the car or something. But the reason I wanted to see Ashley Moody is because I believe Ashley Moody is probably, I don't know how to feel about this now, but I've always felt like Ashley Moody may have been the only person in Ron DeSantis' orbit who was not corrupt. And I had a question for her about something, and she wasn't even there. I was the only person there. I showed up And I saw his staff members, they were like peeking out of the doors. They were bouncing around from the courthouse to the state attorney's office to the public defender back to the courthouse. And they kept looking out to see like, hey, is the crowd here yet? Apparently, nobody in the city of Orlando gives a damn about what Ron DeSantis has to say. And, you know, that's the general sentiment. You know, when you talk to folks who have voted for him, I talk to them all the time on the ground. They think he's a turncoat. I know folks who voted for DeSantis 2 times and say that they regret voting for him both times because he's a turncoat. Despite being very disliked in general, but especially here in Orlando, he's never going to miss an opportunity to get some attention. And he's just out doing the most. And he came down here and, in my opinion, he robbed Regina of her presumption of innocence. Even though the Constitution does say that if a municipal official is indicted, he can suspend them from office, but it's discretionary. And is it the right thing to do? No, it's not. Because don't forget, when they asked Ron DeSantis if he would vote for Donald Trump, if Trump were convicted of a felony, he raised his hand and said that he would.
If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
Turns around and suspends Regina Hill from office, and she hasn't been convicted of anything. Why? Because he's a racist. But, you know, I don't want to make this I don't want to give him the attention he seeks. I don't want to make this some type of grievance about Ron DeSantis, but at the end of the day, we're stuck with him for 2 more years. And he's put a target on the backs of black women to where you're a criminal if you want to help an elderly person improve their quality of life. You can have a valid power of attorney. You can do everything right. You can save them from despair. You can take them to a spa to make them feel beautiful again. You are worth something, Miss Curtis. Let me remind you what it's like to be clean. Let me remind you what it's like to get your nails done. Let me remind you what it's like to go and get to a spa and get a massage or something. Let me remind you what it's like to live in a clean house. Let me remind you what it's like to have company in your home. We're gonna live together. When you're black, that's a crime. And I'm just gonna be as straightforward as I can be with some of you guys, because some of you guys are listening to me right now. You're saying, well, Mo, I voted for DeSantis. What are you saying? I'm saying if Miss Curtis dies because of the games that they're playing, taking away her primary caregiver, somebody who actually really cared, and replacing them with somebody a FDLE agent went and picked, if she dies as a result of this Ron DeSantis version of law enforcement, you might have to do some soul searching, because your vote is the reason that happened. Elections have dire consequences, and we have to start judging people by their principles, because everybody knows DeSantis only got elected because he was a good second fiddle. The moment he decided to act like he was the top dog, he was already into a second term, so there's no removing him from office. But he has no political future. I could have told you that was the caliber of his character back when he made that commercial reading the Donald Trump book to his kids. What man with principles would even do something like that? But that's the way that our elections work. And unfortunately, black women are paying a hell of a price. So you're probably saying, Mo, I see you're running for Regina's seat. If you think she's innocent, why do you want to take her spot? I don't want to take her spot. I think I'm all but certain she's gonna beat these allegations, because see, here's the thing. This special election that's coming up, it's gonna be a short tenure for whoever wins this special election, because Regina can run again in January, whether she's out on bond or not. The only reason she got removed this time is because the indictment happened while she was in office. She's not in office anymore. So when the next election comes around, she can run again. And if you know, you know. Regina Hill is one of the most beloved people in the city of Orlando. And it's rightfully deserved, because if you're a young person and you enjoy EDC, or you're a member of the LGBTQ community and EDC is your thing, you go out there, you feel safe, you get to enjoy life, Guess who's behind the scenes making that happen for you? Regina Hill. If you're somebody who can't wait till Classic comes around and you get to go out there and be young and have fun and just embrace the spirit of the city of Orlando, guess who's behind the scene making that happen? Regina Hill. She's made significant contributions to the culture of this city. She's one of the main reasons Orlando is Orlando. Regina Hill is the heart of this city, and everybody knows it. That's why every election she wins in a landslide. And I just want people to know the truth. And the reason that I'm running is because, first of all, we're overdue for someone like me to be a member of the government, first of all. Second, when I look at this Regina Hill situation and I see how crooked that special agent is, and knowing I've met him face to face, and he left a taste in my mouth that I walked away knowing in my mind he was a racist. That's the impression he left me with. That's a racist man. And then seeing this happen, we have a good leader who doesn't have to embezzle $2,000 for a trip to Vital Lounge. She's probably made close to $1 million just off of her salary from the time she's been in office. She has money. This was not something she needed to do. When I see this, it's like, man, like this is like J. Edgar Hoover level corruption, nonsense, lies, attacks, discrimination. That's how it looks to me. And they want to take our best leaders. And when they take a real one, we need to give them a real one back. And I'm as real as it gets, one of the realest. And this shouldn't be an election about a new vision for the city of Orlando, because Regina Hill was doing just fine. District 5 was in terrific shape. And she's one of those very rare beloved politicians. It's not very often where the people love politicians. And that's another thing about DeSantis. He's the type of politician that wants to be loved. He wants to be loved like a Donald Trump. He wants to be loved like a Regina Hill. And he's had his eyes on Orlando for quite some time. And if he wanted to curry favor in Orlando, you see he's making appointments here and there. He's trying to make Orlando reflect whatever's in his mind, where he wants Orlando to look like wherever the hell he's from. And we reject anything DeSantis related anytime it comes up. And you come and attack one of our most beloved public officials with lies and corruption and the crooked judges you put on the bench, really? That's an easy way to get your appointments rejected come election time. That's how you protect black women with your vote. If you can't do anything else, if you can do nothing else, protect them with your vote. Because if you're a black woman, you have an obligation to protect black women. If you're a black man, you have an obligation to protect black women. If you're a Hispanic man, you have an obligation to protect black women. If you're a Hispanic woman, you have an obligation to protect black women. If you're a white man, you have an obligation to protect black women. And if you're a white woman, you have an obligation to protect black women. Why? Because the black woman is the most mistreated and oppressed person on the face of this earth. And the smallest things you do can impact their lives in terrible ways, like going to the ballot and saying, DeSantis. Next thing you know, the black woman's life is in danger. You check DeSantis, Miss Curtis's life is on the line, and Regina Hill's freedom is on the line. Law enforcement looks like Ron DeSantis right now. And for the next 2 years, the only way to do that is to vote for good people. Judge folks by their character. With that, folks, you're going to be able to judge me by my character very soon, because you're about to see me in 3D. Coming to your house. I'm going to be collecting signature petitions to get my name on the ballot for District 5 Commissioner for the City of Orlando. I want to expound upon the ideas Regina Hill had for the festivities that come here. She's made so many contributions to our culture significantly, to where her ideas have led to us surpassing Las Vegas in tourism. Her ideas have led to us surpassing New Year's visitors more than Times Square. We get more New Year's visitors in the city of Orlando than they do in New York. We get more overall tourists than Las Vegas. Orlando's the center of earth right now, and if it weren't for Regina Hill's innovations and her connections to the community, I don't think we would have excelled this fast. And all of the new people moving here on a weekly basis. Orlando is the crown jewel of this earth, and I want to keep that going until Regina comes back, because as soon as she get back, my sights are on my rematch with Buddy Dyer, because you guys know what happened during that last election. I was getting too much momentum and they cheated to keep me off the ballot. We ain't letting that happen this time. The only ones that can keep me off the ballot is the IRS. They told me the paperwork that I need to do all of the nitty gritty with my campaign is not gonna be here for another 10 to 14 business days. And with this being a special election, I got like 4 or 5 days to get this done. So if I don't get the paperwork in order, it has to be the signature petitions, and I'm gonna need y'all's help, because that's the only way for me to get on the ballot for now. And when you see me at your door, feel free to ask me about everything that you've heard here. If you feel like I may have missed some information, tell me all about it. If you feel like I may have gotten some things incorrect, tell me all about it. And if you think I should have gone and done a deeper dive on this topic, let me know, because you're about to see me real soon. As soon as I upload this video, I'm going to be out and about all over District 5, knocking on doors. And when you see me, let's talk about it. I love you all. I love you like Regina love you. Let's make that a thing here in Orlando. I love you like Regina love you, because what I witnessed, the relationship between Regina Hill and Miss Curtis, that was true love. And this special agent who should be on a special management meal in prison made love a crime. And we know that's not gonna fly here in Orlando, but at the same time, it's already cost Regina dearly, and we can't force her back into office. We can't just go pick her up and say, hey, we're gonna walk you back to City Hall. We just have to make sure we stick by her and not allow for people to get the facts wrong, because I've seen so many people abandoning her and people not speaking up, because everything you're hearing from me right now, you should have heard this from the mayor. You should have heard this from the other members of city council. Nobody standing up. That ain't what Mo's about. Mo's about the truth, and that's the bottom line. And whatever I can do to protect Black women, I'm gonna do it, even if it's as simple as getting the truth out there. I will see all of you guys in a little bit. You're probably gonna see me. I don't know if I'm gonna be wearing the Mo hat or if you're just gonna see me. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna have on some suspenders and I'm gonna have a clipboard. I remember the last time I was out there, man, the folks out in Spring Lake, man, they treated me so well. They heard Mo was in town, and every street I went down, there were people coming out of their house like, Mo, come get this Gatorade, or Mo, come get this sparkling water. Mo, come get this regular water. Come get this, And by the time I walked back to my car, it looked like I had just robbed somebody's fridge. They showed me love everywhere that I went, all over this great, beautiful city. I never forget the love that I got in Spring Lake. And I can't wait to see you guys again. It's actually my favorite part about being on the campaign trail and, talking to you guys and getting your feedback, because this is something I really want your feedback about. And I can kind of read the temperature already. I know this city's behind Regina. However, the news media was very irresponsible in repeating those lies from that special agent without investigating the truth of what he was saying. And then the news media was in the courtroom. They heard the testimony and did not go back and correct their lies. So I can't wait to talk to you guys about this. I'm getting excited already. That's my favorite thing to do. And I can't wait to get to it. So we're gonna end this here. Follow me on Twitter, because what I want to start doing is having virtual Twitter spaces, especially if I get elected and we can get the whole community, the entire city of Orlando on Twitter, to have virtual town halls on Twitter where people get to talk. Everybody gets the microphone. It ain't just, you got 3 minutes to talk at City Hall and you got to stand in line and then you got to wait for everybody else to speak and all that. No, join me on Twitter. And if we can get the Twitter numbers up high enough, we're gonna do some town halls and talk about the future of this great city of Orlando and how we're gonna stick by Regina as she makes it through this. She has wonderful attorneys. I was thinking about my legal skirmishes and, exposing the selective prosecutions and how my investigations could have helped her situation. But after watching that hearing, she's in terrific hands. Nicole Benjamin is one of the best attorneys I've ever seen. And I'm pretty confident Regina will be fine. So with that, folks, I love you all and I'll see you soon.